Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to the day 36 recap of the 2016-2017 NBA season. It is official. Russell Westbrook is now officially averaging a triple-double. He had his third in a row in the 8th of a season last night, a win over the New York Knicks. 27 points, 18 rebounds, and 14 assists. And now on the year, he's basically averaging 31 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds per game. So insane statistical numbers for Mr. Russell Westbrook, Mr. Triple-Double. And I know it's easy to nitpick Russell Westbrook if you're not a fan of his. It's easy to say that his usage rate is through the roof. It's easy to say that he still turns the ball over so much, which is obviously because of his usage rate. You could say that, you know, like, he may get 11 assists per game, but he's still pretty much a ball hog because those 11 assists are basically the 11 times he passed per game. I mean, you could say all of that if you're not a Russell Westbrook fan. What I'd want to do right now, though, is actually just take time to still appreciate how great he really is. Usage rate, everything else through the window, this is just spectacular. The Oklahoma City Thunder are now 11-8 on the year, which is alright. You know, it's not as good as they've been in previous years, but considering what they've gone through, it's still pretty good. You know, they're still gonna make the playoffs. They are still a pretty good team. And of course, 95% of that has to do with Russell Westbrook. These are stat lines that you get in like my career in NBA 2K. Whether he's a stat sheet stuffer or not, the fact that he gets 18 rebounds is just impressive. Rebounds you have to work for more than anything. Yesterday, he had 18 rebounds, 5 of them on the offensive glass. He is a point guard. I mean, that's stuff that Andre Drummond does, you know, that's stuff that you see Andre Drummond, DeAndre Jordan, players like that do, and now, of course, Russell Westbrook as well. Also for the Thunder, it's nice to see Enes Kanter. Yo, Enes Kanter can be really good off the bench when he's aggressive. Last night, 27 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, in 28 minutes. You can't possibly ask of anything more for someone off the bench than Enes Kanter gave the Thunder last night. George Hill is the difference for the Utah Jazz. The Jazz are now 7-3 when George Hill plays, and they're 3-5 when he doesn't. In my mind right now, George Hill is the leading candidate to win the most improved player, and that's crazy to say. He has improved in every single, well, almost every single asset of his game. I mean, the assists and the rebounds are still just about what you got in Indiana. But check this out, he's playing less minutes in Utah than he did in Indiana, yet his scoring has gone up from 12.1 points per game to 21.2 points per game, and his field goal percentage has gone up by 10%. He's hitting 54% of his shots from the field and 44% of his shots from three, and his free throw shooting has also gone up by 10% as well. 76% with Indiana, and now he's shooting 80% on the year so far with the Utah Jazz. This just shows how big of a change a change of scenery can make for an NBA player. A change of scenery and also giving him the keys offensively. They're putting more trust in George Hill offensively than Indiana ever did. In Indiana, he was just an afterthought offensively. Of course, everything went through Paul George. Paul George was a facilitator offensively. Paul George was basically the point guard in Indiana. But in Utah, George Hill is the guy. Not like the guy because that's still Gordon Hayward, but you know, he has a bigger role than he did in Indiana. No Utah fan can sit here and tell me that when they traded for George Hill, they saw this coming. I mean, at best, you were probably expecting like a 14 points, 5 assists, and some good defense from George Hill. Not freaking 21 points per game on some of the most efficient shooting, some of the most efficient playing in the NBA. In efficiency ratings, he's higher than players like Steph Curry, Kemba Walker, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Isaiah Thomas, Damian Lillard. Among eligible players, he's the 9th most efficient player in the game. But then again, don't take these efficiency stats things too seriously. I mean, you have Greg Monroe, who's like number 21, ahead of players like Kyrie Irving, Karl Anthony Towns, you know, so don't take this too seriously, but George Hill actually does deserve that. The Utah Jazz beat the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. George Hill had 24 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and then Gordon Hayward had 24 points of his own. And for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I really think Tom Thibodeau loves Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is getting so many more minutes and is so much more involved this year than he ever was. Last night he played 44 minutes. 44 minutes from Zach LaVine last night, and Tom Thibodeau is known for working his players hard, and 44 minutes is a lot of playtime. Compare that to Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, who both had 34 minutes that game. He almost had a triple-double though, 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. And like I said, on the year, the Timberwolves are using him more this year. Look, his minutes did go up by about 10 minutes per game. His shooting hasn't really improved. He's having a much better year, but his shooting statistics are basically exactly the same. He's still shooting about the same 46% from the field they did last year, and about the same same 38% from 3 that he did last year, but his scoring has gone up. He's now averaging just a hair, 19.9 points per game. So he's basically averaging 20 points per game this year compared to his 14 points per game last year. He's having a really good season, and when it comes to the Timberwolves, he is kind of an afterthought. When you think of the Minnesota Timberwolves, he is one of the big 3 players you think about, but it's always either Andrew Wiggins, then Karl-Anthony Towns, or Karl-Anthony Towns, then Andrew Wiggins, but Zach LaVine is always 3rd on that list. But the few times the Timberwolves do win, it's mainly because Zach LaVine had a big night. Yeah, of course there's that time with the Lakers where Andrew Wiggins went off for 47, and that's the main reason they got the win, but still, Zach LaVine always plays a huge part when the Timberwolves do win. The Charlotte Hornets beat the Memphis Grizzlies last night. They have now won 2 in a row. And Jeremy Lamb had another freaking ridiculous game. Another ridiculous game in 23 minutes off the bench. Guess what this man did? Do you know he went out there, dropped 21 points, and grabbed 9 rebounds in 23 minutes? I said last time, after he had like that 17 rebound game, that was probably never gonna happen again. Well, he had another 9 rebound game last night. And if that continues, then I might have to eat my words about that 17 rebound game never happening again. He did show signs of progressing last year with the Charlotte Hornets, and to start this year, he was just basically the same as last year. But the 2 games since he came back, he's been absolutely phenomenal. For the Memphis Grizzlies, one of my subscribers said it best last night. They couldn't score 130 points against an open gym. The Charlotte Hornets are a good defensive team, and I think that's what the Memphis Grizzlies' problem is. They struggle against teams who are both good offensively and defensively. If they play against a team like that, it's basically a wrap, because the Memphis Grizzlies are an amazing defensive team, but a terrible offensive team. And if they go against a team that's at least competent defensively, then they're going to struggle even more offensively like they did last night against the Charlotte Hornets. And the Charlotte Hornets are a good offensive team as well, so it kind of helps when they have a good offense to go against the Grizzlies' good defense. So that's what the Grizzlies struggle with. The Boston Celtics went out and beat the Miami Heat last night. No Al Horford, as he just had a newborn baby, so congratulations to you, Al Horford. But of course, the Boston Celtics still got the job done. Isaiah Thomas, I think he's having some finger problems because his shooting has been off the past few games. He was 7 for 23 from the field last night. He had 25 points, and he just hasn't been shooting the ball well over this last stretch of games for the Boston Celtics. Avery Bradley, though, has still been really impressive this season. It's gone a little bit under the radar, but he has been really impressive this season, especially with his rebounding. He's averaging almost 8 rebounds a game this year to go along with his basically 18 points per game this year. He is one of the best shooting guards in the NBA, and yet he almost never gets talked about. Like I said before, people were sleeping on the Boston Celtics to start the season when they weren't as great as people thought they were gonna be, but now that they're basically healthy, Al Horford did miss last game, but now that they're basically healthy, they are winning again. They have won 4 of their past 5. Speaking of winning games, Golden State Warriors have now won 12 in a row. 12 games in a row. And it was a really good game against the Atlanta Hawks. It was like the best offense versus the best defense. But it was Draymond Green who was playing the best defense at the end of the game. 2 huge blocks in the final minutes of the game basically seal it. You can talk about Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant all you want, but Draymond Green is the guy that's doing the things that it takes to get this team to win. That's going out there and doing the dirty work. DeMar DeRozan had his first un-DeMar DeRozan game of the year so far. He only had 13 points, but luckily for the Toronto Raptors, they were playing against the Philadelphia 76ers. They won by 27, 122-95. In large part thanks to Kyle Lowry, 24 points on 7 of 9 shooting. And he also had 8 assists. And you might be asking yourself, well, how is that possible? He must have shot a lot of free throws. No, he didn't. He didn't. He was just 6 for 6 from 3. And Terrence Ross also had a good game off the bench, which is what he's used for. He's used for that instant spark off the bench, which he provided last night. 22 points for Terrence Ross. All of the Raptors starters scored in double figures. So, it was a nice team game for the Toronto Raptors. And of course, for the Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid sat out as it was a back-to-back. He doesn't play those due to his minute restrictions. Then the Washington Wizards played the Sacramento Kings last night. In the matchup of John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, 2 players who are both unhappy with the situations. Even though the Wizards are 6-10, the Kings are 7-11, so they're not terrible, but they're just bad, if that makes sense. Of course, DeMarcus Cousins had a monster game, 31 points, 20 rebounds, an absolute beast of a game, but of course the Sacramento Kings lost. The Washington Wizards starting lineup isn't that bad. To be honest, it isn't that bad when it's healthy. When Bradley Beal is healthy, the Washington Wizards aren't that bad of a team. The problem is, if the team bus hits a pothole on the road, Bradley Beal is going to be out for 5 weeks. That's the only problem. But he wasn't out last night. He had 31 points and had 7 threes on 13 attempts. And then John Wall also had another double-double. Actually, he had a triple-double, 19 points, 11 assists, and 11 turnovers. Like I said, the Washington Wizards starting lineup isn't that bad. Otto Porter is a pretty nice player. Marcin Gortat is an acceptable starting center. Markieff Morris is acceptable as a starter on most nights when he's not getting thrown out for doing something stupid. But it's their bench. I mean, their bench is just awful. I mean, just that's all I can say. Their bench is just awful. Because when John Wall and Bradley Beal come out of the game, they can't keep a lead. Like, even if they had a lead or if they were down, they go down even more. So yeah, their bench is just trash, but they did get the win over the Sacramento Kings. And that about wraps it up for the Day 36 recap of the 2016-2017 NBA season. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to smack that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this every single day. You guys already know I'll be right back here tomorrow recapping the action from tonight. So until then, keep getting the buckets, Team SDC, and I'm out of here. Peace!